Hey friends, it's Anna. Happy June or almost June. I cannot believe summer is already here. It feels like just yesterday I was wishing for warm weather and for all the trees to have their leaves. I am so ready for this season, and I'm going to try to bring in some of those light, happy, nature-inspired vibes into my journal this month. So grab some tea or coffee, get cozy, and let's start planning for June. This is also going to be the last month I'm in this Archer and Olive notebook, which I'm pretty sad about because I love this journal, but I am excited about the one I'm migrating into next month. I'll link this journal and all the supplies I'm using in this setup below in the description box. We're starting off with the cover page. I wrote June a little above the middle of the page, and I'm using a few different brush pens to draw some boxes around the title. These are going to serve as a backdrop to our floral drawings that make up this month's theme. To draw the florals and the marker I wrote the title in, I'm using some acrylic markers from Arrtx, who is so kindly the sponsor of today's video. I love Arrtx markers, as you probably know, because I've worked with them several times on my channel now, and they just sent me their 90 color acrylic paint pens. I love the boxes they send their markers in. These are stored upside down to preserve the ink, and they also send you stickers to label all the color numbers. It takes a while to put these on, but it's kind of a fun task. I went ahead and swatched all the colors out. You get so many shades with the 90 pack. I especially love all the variety of greens and skin tones, and you can see how vibrant all the colors are. Let's go ahead and gather the colors I have picked out for this journal theme. I really love the color palette we're going to be working with, and I'll list all the numbers in the description box below as well, and links to check out these markers on Amazon. So I chose a few different flowers to draw throughout this theme, and each of them is going to go on top of the brush pen box that matches in color. We're starting off with roses, which I'm creating in steps from darkest to lightest colors. You can tell the ink from these pens is highly pigmented with strong coverage, so they're great for layering. I start with an uneven circle of our darkest pink, then I go in with a mid-range pink and draw some overlapping half circles. Then I do the same thing in this even lighter pink, again overlapping half circles, this time a little smaller and starting at the very center. For the final touch, I draw a really thin, broken up spiral in white. The white really makes these pop, I think. These pens are fast drying, and if you let the base layer dry, you can completely color on top of it with another marker, even in lighter shades. But if you work fast, you can also mix the inks, so you can use them either way depending on what you want. I kind of did a mix with the roses, letting all the pinks blend together a little bit, but I let it completely dry before adding the white so it would stand out. I'll add all the leaves to all the flowers later. The flowers I chose for the yellow boxes are some orangey tulips. Again, I'm working from darkest to lightest shades to just add different color streaks within the general shape of a tulip. I'm using a pretty loose abstract art style for these flowers. They're very simple, using simple and minimal marker strokes. If you scrutinize these drawings too closely, they kind of just look like random paint strokes, but especially when I add the leaves and when you look at it not up close, you can definitely tell what each flower is supposed to be. Which is just the crazy thing about abstract art to me, how our brains can recognize what very basic shapes are trying to portray, even when they're in a style so far removed from real life. So I added the longer leaves for the tulips, and now we're filling in the roses. I'm using 3 different green shades for the leaves, with the lightest shades going on top. Again, you can see the layering power of these markers. And another thing I love about these is that even though they're acrylic paint pens, you don't have to press down or shake them. All you have to do is remove the cap and they're ready to go. Not that paint pens that you have to press and shake are bad, like Arrtx has their sim tap markers, which I used in my last setup, and those you do the whole activation thing, which does give you some extra control. But for me, who's not an acrylic artist necessarily, and I'm typically more comfortable working in the medium of brush tip markers, I really like that these markers are great for convenience. I went ahead and added the leaves to our last flower type. We are going to add some blue hydrangeas on top of these light blue boxes. These flowers are so easy to draw, and yet they look so cute and are definitely recognizable. Again, following the pattern of starting with the darkest colors, I add a base of dark blue dots in whatever shape I want the flower to be. Then I add a light blue dot layer. I usually concentrate the lighter shades in a certain area, like I'll have the flower go from light at the top to dark at the bottom. Then I use a cream for a layer of dots, and to finish off, just go in with a few white specks. Just like the roses, adding that small hint of white on the top layer really brings it together. For the final step of this cover page, I'm going to add some borders to this remaining gray box and borders to the colored boxes as well. The gray is going to be used for title highlights and borders and a bunch of the functional parts of later spreads, so that's why I went ahead and introduced the gray here. I don't really know if this cover page is the best balanced as far as layout and color. When I was practicing drawing these flowers, I went ahead and did a test cover page and another journal, which I used to test out my ideas, and I almost feel like that cover page looks better. I feel like maybe if I also paid closer attention to the direction of the leaves and balancing out the leaves better, it could have improved the drawings. But you live and you learn, and that's just what happens when you go in without sketching things ahead of time, which is what I did for this setup. Moving over to this left page, I'm going to make a memory spread for the month. I'm writing the title in a gray box and doing the same border with an outline and dashes in the inside. I'm going to use this and similar bordered patterns throughout the whole setup. I absolutely love having a memory spread next to my cover page because it's so fun to look back on and see some of your favorite moments highlighted right at the beginning of the month. Including pictures in my journal makes it so personal, and they're some of my favorite spreads to look at. I'm going ahead and outlining where I'll put the pictures with the photo paper that goes with my mini photo printer. In the future months, I might start dedicating a whole 2 pages for my monthly memories though, since I can only fit 3 photos here with my photo printer, and we'll probably have lots of exciting moments to document this summer. I've been waiting to announce this on social media, but I think it's finally time to tell you guys that my husband and I are expecting a baby boy in August. We are so excited. We're in full baby prep mode because this will be our first. So we will definitely have lots of memories to be documenting in the next months, and we'll be extra busy this summer getting the nursery and everything ready. I'm also starting to plan out how to prepare some YouTube videos ahead of time so I can give myself a little bit of a break from content creation after the baby's born, but hopefully without my channel going completely dark. I want to at least have the next few monthly bullet journal setups made and scheduled so those can still post during the fall. But I'll keep you guys updated on all that as we get closer, and I'm so excited to finally share this awesome news with you. So we are finishing this memory spread with some more tulips and hydrangeas, both going in front of the same colored boxes with the brush pins. That will stay consistent throughout the setup. The nice thing about this Arrtx 90 pack is there's so many colors. I can for sure find whatever shades I want to match the other stationery I might be using in my journal or other art projects. Oh, and here's Coco making a guest appearance. She absolutely loves walking over my journal and knocking off as many supplies as she can off my desk. Another cool thing about these markers is they're great for general crafting. They're waterproof and work on multiple surfaces like glass, wood, ceramic. I want to use them to decorate some terracotta pots I have because I think that would be super cute. The brush tip makes it to where you can work in small sizes or fill in large spaces, all depending on what pressure you're using. And you can use these for brush lettering too, like I did for the title on my June log here and the cover page. The brush tip is pretty big though, so it is best for larger lettering. So like I said, this is my June log, aka what I use as my monthly calendar. Using a log format typically works best for me because it's super easy to set up and actually has a little more space to write things down than a boxed calendar. So this is a system I've been using in my journal, but I do kind of wish I had actually made the standard calendar for June, because when I have a lot of travel or people visiting or bigger projects that I want to map out when I'm working on, it's just easier for me to visualize that in a standard calendar. And summer months are always just that way. There's a lot going on. So I think for the next few journal setups, you'll probably see me switch back to a standard calendar format. And to be completely honest, I did think about it before making my June pages, but the log is just so much easier to set up that I did it anyways, literally just because I was too lazy to draw out a full calendar. And in case you haven't seen one of my setups before, this log style is incredibly simple. As you can probably tell, I write the dates of the month and the dates of the week in columns to the left, and then each row is the space I use to write events, appointments, due dates, etc. I also like to separate out the weeks, so that's what the horizontal dashed lines are. I do my monthly setups in 4 or 5 week intervals for whichever weeks most closely align with the month. So even though I call this my June bullet journal setup, it's really for Monday, June 2nd through Sunday, June 29th. And then my July setup will pick up on that following Monday. To decorate the page, I'm adding some more boxes with flowers above and below the log and another gray box with the bordered design. Recently, I've been freehanding all my lines in my journal. I used to mostly use a ruler, and then I guess I got too lazy for that too and just started hand drawing all the lines, normally not minding too much when they're not perfectly straight. But since the art on these pages is in that messy abstract style, I do think it would look better if I had used a ruler to actually make straight lines, especially since my hands are getting pretty wobbly. For this right page, I'm changing it up slightly from just my simple tasks page. I'm titling it a dashboard because there were a few different sections I wanted to include here. One is for my monthly task list, but I also felt like I needed separate lists for home projects and baby prep things. We have a few renovations we're trying to get done right now, and of course all the baby related tasks, and these two categories are taking up most of my to-do list anyways, so it'll be helpful to separate them out. Also, if you've been following along with me, you know I've been doing the 12-week year system where I set and track my bigger goals on a 12-week cycle. And my 2 current goals are baby and home related. So these spaces are also where I can track progress on those 12-week goals. I used a variety of designs and borders for the different sections. I think that makes the page look really cute. Even if you don't like doing any art in your journal, with fun borders and fonts, you can still make the pages look really aesthetic. And then I did leave some empty spaces to add more of our flower drawings. Like I mentioned, I've been keeping it consistent with which color boxes I pair with which flowers, and I try to balance out the colors across the page. I think another fun way to do this theme would be to do all the boxes on each page as the same color and flower though. So all the 3 boxes on the log could be roses, and then these 2 on the dashboard could both be tulips. I think that would still look really good, and then you don't have to think as much about how to balance the flowers. Let me know which of these 3 flower designs is your favorite in the comments. I think mine are the roses. They're so satisfying to draw. But especially once I got the systems down for all of these, all of the flowers were super easy, definitely beginner friendly to new artists. I'm going to finish up these roses and then we'll move on to my last spread for this setup, my first weekly for June. It's going to follow my normal format, but I'm also going to try tracking habits on a weekly scale instead of monthly for June. You'll notice we went straight into my weekly from my June login dashboard. Normally I have at least 2 more pages in my monthly setups, whether that's for habit trackers or an exercise log or something else going on or being tracked. But right now, keeping things as short and sweet is ideal. I'm doing a header in the top left that says week 5 because that's where I'm at in this 12-week cycle. I also have a mini calendar with the current week highlighted. And then I'm making 2 task sections. The first for my 12-week goal related actions that are assigned to week 5. Part of the 12-week system is you plan out each task or action and assign it to be completed on a certain week before the 12-week period even begins. And I labeled that section baby/home since those are the categories of my 12-week goals. And then below that, I have a small space for any other tasks. The last column in this weekly is where you'll see me add a habit tracker, but first we're going to create my daily sections. This is the same format I've been using recently, like I said, except for the addition of those habits. Each day gets a half-page column, and I have a color highlight at the bottom, which is for writing something I'm grateful for that day. I really like including a daily gratitude practice in this way. And you can see the page on the right is folded because I use a faux Dutch door for this spread so that it can encompass 4 full pages. But if I keep this middle page folded in half, I can always see the 2 end columns where my tasks and habits are. You'll see what I mean in a second when I fold it. I've been using this weekly format off and on literally since I started making bullet journal videos for YouTube, so you're probably very familiar with it by now. I hope it doesn't get too boring. I'm always torn between trying to change things up in my journal so that these setups don't get too repetitive, but also wanting to honor what honestly works best for me. And sometimes you find a format that you just want to use over and over again because it works. Let me know what you guys think about this and if there's anything new or different you'd want me to include or talk about or show in a plan with me video. Also, since I'm about to start preparing my bullet journal ahead of time for post-baby months, if you're a parent of an infant and you have any spread suggestions for me, please let me know. What bujo and planning systems work for you as parents? I would appreciate any insights or ideas. So like I said, this last column will be for habits and also events. Since the calendar is getting a little more full, I thought I could also use a weekly snapshot of events or appointments. I'm using a really similar design as the June log for that section. For the habits, I'm writing each one out and then listing the days of the week below. For each day that I complete that habit, I'll highlight over the day with a brush pen from one of the colors I've been using. So I'm designating those colors here with a little line next to the days for now. I'm excited to see how tracking habits on a weekly basis goes because I don't know if I've ever actually included them on a weekly spread before. I think I've always done monthly trackers, so this will be a cool experiment. And here you can see what I mean by folding the middle of the page so that no matter what day of the week I'm on, I can see my 2 end columns. The last step to making this spread is adding in some flowers. I'm going to put one flower in the very left of each box on the bottom so that there's still space to write daily gratitude with the rest of the highlighted area. I also wanted to title this gratitude section, but I realized I drew one of the rose leaves in the way, so I'm using the white Arrtx acrylic marker to cover that up. That's another nice thing about these markers is you don't have to worry too much about making mistakes because you can usually fix it by drawing over it with a different color or effectively erasing it with the white marker. I've actually used this white marker as a whiteout substitute in general for my journal to fix mistakes. I'm going to do the same thing for the last daily columns, and that completes my June bullet journal setup. I hope you guys enjoyed this light floral summer theme. Once I figured out my techniques for the flowers, it was very relaxing to draw. Feel free to subscribe if you want to stick around for more cozy journal content. Thank you guys so much for watching and your support as always. I am wishing you all a beautiful start to June.